ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा माताजी।
Hare Krishna Ma, thank you very much. Okay, so today we'll be discussing about the chapter 16. That is the divine and demoniac natures. Okay, so before week we discussed about chapter 15. So today we are starting with chapter 16. So let me offer my prayers first. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining this call. I see very less people joining. I'm not sure why. Maybe they're busy with academics or they're watching the video later. I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll just go ahead with the chapter 16. So chapter 16 is entitled as the divine and demoniac natures. So like earlier, we will actually do a recap of the previous chapter, that is chapter 15. So anyone remember what is the name of the chapter 15? Any idea? Chapter 15. You can type in the chat or you can actually raise your hand. I think you all can unmute by yourself. I haven't muted anyone because of less number of people.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. The title is Purushottama Prapti Yoga.
Very good. Excellent. Yes. So in that chapter, we actually discussed about the 4 sections. The first section we discussed about like material world as a reflection, and it is a reflection of the spiritual world. So we discussed that if there is something on the above, then we'll see that reflection. Since there is spiritual world, that we are seeing the reflection, that is the material world. And material world is like an upside down banyan tree. That also we discussed in that chapter. So I see in the chat also Anant and Vanshika Shrinika. Okay, Vanshika Shrinika, they're not able to unmute. You just raise your hand, I'll unmute you. Okay. Yeah. So in the first section, we discussed about material world, how the material world is, how it is temporary, and how the spiritual world is our eternal home. And if we understand the relationship that the eternal home is going to Goloka Vrindavan, reaching our eternal father, then we are the knower of all the Vedas. That we discussed in the first section. In the second section, we discussed about the transmigration of the soul. So at the end of our life, whatever desires and whatever choices we make, based on that only we'll get our next body. Our soul will transmigrate from living this body to a new body based on our desires and our choices. And in this particular section, we discussed about how we actually lost our connection with Krishna, how we have to actually remember how we can remember our eternal connection and how we can establish our connection with Krishna, that we discussed in this particular section. And also we discussed what are the characteristics of material world and what are the characteristics of spiritual world. Can anyone say what one difference, like what is the characteristic of material world which differs that with the spiritual world? Anyone? At least one is enough. One characteristic which differentiates the material world to that of the spiritual world. Can anyone say? You can just raise your hand, I'll unmute.
Yes, Mataji. You just asked the difference between material world and spiritual world, right, Mataji?
Right. Yes, yes.
Yeah. The difference between material world and spiritual world is in spiritual world, the jivas are permanent and they will be very happy with Krishna. Here we are miserable.
Very good. It is temporary.
Temporary.
Excellent. Yes, that is one thing I was looking for. Yeah, thank you, Vishnu. Okay, so in the next section, we discussed about how Lord is our maintainer. So we discussed about different levels, like Lord is maintainer at the cosmic level, he's maintainer at the personal level, and he's maintainer at the soul level. Can anyone say how the Lord is the maintainer at the soul level? So we defined, right? How he is the maintainer at soul level. Okay, so I see again Vishnu Priya. Yeah.
Paramatma.
Ah, right, exactly. Because what Paramatma gives us, what are the three qualities he gives us? Yes, Vishnu Priya. I am muted.
Mataji, three qualities.
What does he give us? He gives us knowledge.
Bliss.
He gives us forgetfulness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those comes from the Paramatma, right? That is how he maintains us at the soul level. Okay. And in the last section, that is the essence. So here we discussed in this particular verses, we discussed how they are fallible and infallible. The fallible living entities are the entities which wanted to actually independently enjoy, and they always live in the material world. They always come down to this material world. Whereas the infallible living entities, they always try to be very close with Krishna. They always try to be in association with the devotees. They always wanted to be in the spiritual world, and they never leave the spiritual world. So that is chapter 15. So today, chapter 16. In chapter 16, we'll be discussing mainly about the divine and demoniac qualities. So here there are three sections. The first section is the verses 1 to 6 talks mainly about the divine and demoniac qualities. Whereas the second section, that is from the verse 7 to 20, it mainly discusses about Krishna, mainly discusses about the activities of the demoniac people. And then in the final section, that is the last section, that is from the verses 21 to 24, how we have to give up the demonic tendencies, and that is by following scriptures. That is what is told in the last section. So this is a pretty much small chapter again. So the key learnings of this chapter are what is divine nature, and then that is called as Daivi Sampada, and what are the demonic qualities, that is the Asura, and then what choices do we have. Those are the key learnings of this chapter 16. So now let's move on to the first section, that is divine and demoniac qualities. So this particular chapter, we have three important verses. So I haven't written the verses here because most of you have learned them in SSP. So do anyone remember the verses 16.1 to 3? Anyone want to recite those verses? I don't have it on the slide. So that particular three verses, they actually talk about the 26 divine qualities. Yeah, Anant also is saying that the material world, everything is temporary. Spiritual world, we get eternal happiness. Yeah, that is a very great answer. Yeah, anyone remember that particular three verses? You can raise your hand. 16.1 to 3. So you learned them in SSP. They're very important, which talks about the divine qualities. I can give you a hint. Abhayam Sattva Samsuddhir. Anyone want to recite? Sanvi. Yes, Sanvi. You can recite the 3 verses.
Yes, Mataji. Abhayam sattva samshuddhihi jnana yoga vyavasthitihi danam damascha yajnascha swadhyayastapa arjavam ahimsa satyam akrodhah त्यागः शान्तिरपैशुनं दया भूतेष्वलो लुप्त्वं मार्दवं ह्रीरचापलं तेजः क्षमा धृतिः शौचम् अद्रोहो नातिमानिता भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातस्य भारत.
Very good. So these 3 verses are talking. So all of you learned these 3 verses in SSP, and these are very important. And these 3 verses actually describe about the 26 divine qualities which Krishna is talking. So they are called as Devi Prakriti. So these divine qualities are called as Devi Prakriti. And in 12 and 13 chapters, we already discussed elaborately. Krishna was talking about all these qualities. And again, in this particular chapter, Krishna is again talking about divine qualities. So Krishna is giving more emphasis on this divine qualities, which means that we have to understand these qualities and we have to imbibe these qualities within us so that we become dear to Krishna. And then Krishna describes about 6 demoniac qualities here. They are called as Asura Sampada. So first, let's see what are the divine qualities. So we already discussed these elaborately earlier with a story for each one. So we'll just go through what are the qualities here. So fearlessness, self-control, simplicity, truthfulness is one of the very important divine quality. Cleanliness, charity, Vedic study, non-violence, detachment. So in the last chapter, we learned how we have to be detached to go out from this material world. And being non-envious, that is a very important character which Arjuna had. And that's why Krishna always told Arjuna that you are anasuyave, means you are non-envious. That's why I'm giving this knowledge to you. And no criticism, compassion, gentleness, forgiveness, modesty. So these are the 26 divine qualities which is very important to imbibe within ourselves. Okay, since we already discussed about them in the 12th and 13th chapter elaborately, we are not going to discuss in detail about each quality, but then we have further slides on them. And then the demoniac qualities, that is the Asura Sampada. Asura Sampada, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, ignorance, means you always think great about yourself. So these are the demonic qualities that is what Krishna is telling here. So here in this picture, if you see, right, all of you know Duryodhana. You know how arrogant and how proud he is. So one time, this is Vidura. Vidura actually wanted to convey Dhritarashtra, saying that your son Duryodhana is a demoniac person. Because of him, you're going to lose the entire kingdom. So just give up your son. Because of him, you'll be at loss. So he tried to actually convey this message to Dhritarashtra. And even so, Duryodhana was listening to all this when Vidura was talking to Dhritarashtra. And without even talking a word, he was very ruthlessly, actually, he shouted at Vidura, saying that you are not even eligible, you're not even qualified to actually talk this like this in front of me. And he asked, he kicked Vidura out of his kingdom. He asked him, without even listening to what his uncle was saying, he just kicked him out of the kingdom. That's how he actually loses relations. So these demonic people, they have such qualities. They live in ignorance, and because of that, they cannot understand the good coming on their side, and they actually try to ignore everyone, and they actually lose relationships. Okay, so here what is Krishna conveying? Krishna is saying what is the destiny of the divine and demoniac people. So if we have divine qualities which we have discussed, like cleanliness, truthfulness, being humble, so all this if we inculcate in our day-to-day lives, then we can attain liberation easily, because we get that self-realization and we can go back to Godhead. But if we have the demoniac qualities, then we will have attachment. So, you know, Duryodhana, right? Dhritarashtra also. He's very much attached to his sons. Dhritarashtra is very much attached to his son, and he wanted to have, he has so much of greed that he wanted all the possessions for themselves. So because of that bondage, they actually lost everything. So if we have these demoniac qualities, we will have so much of desire to our possessions, to the people, and because of that, we have this bondage wherein we actually we cannot come out of this birth and death life cycle. Okay, so here in this picture you can see, right, good dog and bad dog. So everyone, so in the demoniac qualities we have seen like anger. So anger, every one of us at one point of time we might be angry, right? It's not like we don't have any demonic qualities. We also have demonic qualities, but not as like that of Duryodhana. We have little bit of demoniac qualities in us. So for example, if you see this, good dog and bad dog. So this good dog and bad dog is there in each one of us. So let's take an example. Say when we are in school, maybe there is a very beautiful or very designer or very creative pen lying on the ground. So the bad dog in us says, okay, you don't have that pen, go and pick that up. But the good dog says, no, it is not yours. You just need to go and hand over to the authority. But the bad dog in us keeps saying, go get that pen. You don't have that pen. There's no one around. Just check around. If there's no one, just take the pen. So every one of us will have this bad dog and good dog within us. But we have to understand which is bad and which is good. And we have to act on it accordingly. Okay, understood? So here we can discuss one more story. So there is a boy who's very much frustrated. For small things, he gets irritated and he gets a lot of anger. And his father was so much upset with his son and he didn't know what to do with him. So one day what he did is he just called his son and he said, son, see, I'm giving you this wooden block, one big wooden plank. And he gave a hammer and he gave him some nails. So whenever you get angry, you just pin one nail into that wooden plank. And end of the day, you just count how many nails you actually pinned onto that wooden plank so that you will know how you are angry. Maybe based on that, this will actually help you to reduce the anger. Okay. So this boy, he was not so inclined to do that, but because his father was saying him to do so, he agreed to do that and he took the plank, he took the hammer and the nails. So every time he got angry, he was pinning one nail onto that block. End of the day, he saw like 40 nails were there. So he was really surprised. That boy never knew that he's getting angry this many times. So once he saw those nails, he was thinking, okay, these many times I was angry. Maybe tomorrow I'll try to reduce the number. I'll try to reduce my anger. So next day he worked out on himself. Next day it came down to 35, 36 like that. In like a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, the nails reduced to 2 or 3. His father was so happy with his progress and his father actually came to him and he congratulated the boy saying that you are really working very hard on reducing your anger. I'm really happy for that. But I have one more task for you. Can you do that for me? Then this boy thought, I already reduced my anger. I'm doing a lot of hard work and still my father wants me to do something. Okay, let me give a try, he thought. And the father told him, like, the plank, initially the first day, there were like 40 nails on the plank, right? So now the father was asking him, can you remove the nails from the plank? So initially, whenever he was angry, he was pinning one nail, right? Now the father was asking him to remove each of the nail from that plank. And this boy tried removing each of the plank. And ultimately what he found out is that wooden plank was very beautiful when his father gave him. But now with each nail, there is a hole left on the plank. So the boy took that plank to his father saying, I removed all the nails. Then father asked him to see at the plank. Then the boy replied saying that this looks so ugly. Initially when you gave me, it was so beautiful. Now it was ugly. Then the father replied saying him that whenever you hurt someone, whenever you actually speak harshly with someone, there is always a mark left, just like the hole in the wooden plank. when you hurt someone else, in anger, we don't know, right? We use all harsh words, we shout at people. So at that point of time, what happens is there will be a small, teeny, mini scar left behind after we spoke that harshly. So we have to understand, although we realized our mistake, but we already committed the mistake, right? So we have to admit that mistake and try not to make the same mistake repeatedly again, because that scar will always be left behind. That scar cannot be removed, right? Understood? So that's why it is very important to mind our words, right? Okay. Okay, so we are discussing about demoniac qualities, right? So these demonic people are very unclean. So you know about Kamsa, right? So here you can see Kamsa. So these demonic people generally, they don't know what to do and what not to do. So Kamsa's sister, all of you know, right? Kamsa's sister, Devaki. So immediately after her marriage, Kamsa actually took Devaki to her husband's house. Then there was an Akashvani which actually was telling that the 8th son of Kamsa, of Devaki, is going to kill Kamsa. Immediately after listening to that, without even thinking for a second, he actually caught hold of Devaki's hair and he wanted to chop her head. But somehow Vasudev, he actually pacified Kamsa, saying that Devaki is not going to kill you, right? Our sons are going to kill you. So how many sons we have? I will bring all the sons to you. Please leave Devaki. So somehow Kamsa, he left out Devaki. And later on, Vasudev took each of their sons to Kamsa and he was brutally killing them. So I don't want to discuss about that here. That is how the demonic people are. Okay. They're always unclean. And these people, they basically don't have faith in God. Okay, and you know this Ravana, right? They will engage in horrible works, and because of that, they actually lose relations also. So Ravana, if you see, right, Ravana has a very good brother Vibhishana. When he actually brought Sitama to Lanka, then Vibhishana warned him, saying that no, this is not the right thing. You shouldn't be doing this. Give Sita back to Ramchandra. No, but Ravana, he was not agreeing, and in spite of that, he actually spoke very ruthlessly to Vibhishana and he sent him away from his kingdom. That's how the demonic people are. They engage in horrible works. And these people, they actually secure money by illegal means. They do all sorts of nonsense. They don't follow the rules. They won't abide by the rules. Whatever they wanted to do, their ultimate goal is to get the money. Whether they get the money righteously or not, they're not worried. So they, by all illegal means, they make lot of money. And after making a lot of money, what they do? Will they be satisfied? They won't be satisfied. After getting so much money, again they'll think, using this money, again they wanted to do so many illegal things and earn more and more. That is their attitude. And these people are very hypocritical. What they do is, they always say, okay, these are the rules. They will make the rules, but the rules are not for them. They won't follow the rules. They want everyone else to follow the rules, and they just, the words come there from their mouth, but they don't perform them in action. These demonic people are like that. So what is the essence? What is the summary we learned about this demonic nature is, these people, they don't know what to be done and what not to be done. They don't follow Shastras at all. They are very self-centered and they always have improper behavior. They are very untruthful and they are uncleaned. They don't follow basically the rules at all. Okay, that is the summary of demonic nature. So we have a life lesson here if anyone wants to read.
Yes, Mataji, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
The results are based on the process. If you want Krishna, don't settle for anything less than devotional service.
Very good. So the life lesson is, it is saying that it is based on a particular process. What is that process? We are actually reading Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita gave us so many life lessons so far, right? Whether you want to follow that process or whether you want to settle for your own sense gratification. So if you want to settle for anything less than devotional service, right, you won't attain Krishna. That is what this life lesson is about. So there is one more life lesson if anyone wants to read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can you hear me?
Yes, Amma, go ahead. Yeah.
I am the controller and the enjoyer. I am perfect and most powerful. My enemies are defeated and I am happy. I am the Lord of everything that I serve. This is demigod.
This is demoniac. Yeah.
Demoniac.
Yeah. So this life lesson is, if you are thinking that I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am powerful, nobody else in this world is more powerful than me. If we have all this sort of attitude, then that is demoniac nature. So we have to understand whenever, if pride increases on us, right? So we have to understand, okay, I'm getting into demonic nature. I have to change that attitude. Okay. So now we are moving on to the second section. The second section is the activities of the demoniac people. Okay. This is from the verse 7 to 20. So what are the activities? Let's see. If anyone wants to read this verse.
Aneka chitta vibharanta mohajala samavritaha prasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narake sauchaha. Translation. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell.
Very good. So Krishna is saying what is the destination of these demoniac people. So we learned about the demonic qualities, right? So people who have this demoniac qualities, they are more self-centered and they do everything for their sense gratification. They don't follow the rules and regulations. They don't follow shastras, and ultimately they end up into hell. They fall down into hell. That is the destination of these people. Okay. Again, we have one more verse. So here, what is the treatment of Krishna for this demoniac people? That is what is being discussed in this verse. Who wants to read this?
Tan aham vishata kruran samsareshu naradhaman shipam yajasram ashubhan asurishveva yonishu. Translation: those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence into various demonic species of life.
Very good. So this is the verse which Krishna is talking about his treatment towards the demoniac people. So here Krishna is saying that the people who are not following the rules and regulations, who are always mischievous, and they actually take birth in demoniac species. That's what Krishna is saying. Although we are born in a human life, but then if the people are preferring to be very demoniac, like for example, if we take someone is actually wanting to eat always flesh, right? Then, okay, Krishna will say, okay, you wanted, in being a human species, you wanted to eat more flesh, right? Okay, next life, become a tiger. So that is how Krishna's treatment will be for the demoniac people. Based on their action, Krishna will give them that particular species. That is what Krishna is saying. Okay. So next verse.
Can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes, go ahead.
Asurim yonima panna mura janmani janmani mama paryaiva kaunteya tato yanti adhamam gatem. Translation: attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence.
Very
Hare
good.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here again, Krishna in this particular verse, he is talking about his treatment of the demoniac people. So he's saying, see, this mainly talks about the association. If we are in good association, we will always inculcate those qualities. But if Krishna is saying that if we are with demoniac people, they will actually attain repeated birth and death against the same species of demonic life. See, in Shastras and scriptures also, if we take, like how many, like if you take Prahlad Maharaj, there are very much less exceptions, right? Even Vibhishana, although he's born in a demoniac family, he is very divine. He has all those divine qualities. But then those are exceptions. Here Krishna is saying, if you are born in a demonic family, how many demonic people are there? All of them who are born in demonic species, they attain demonic naturally, right? So Krishna is saying that if you attain repeated birth and repeated birth among this demonic species, they can never approach Krishna at all. They gradually even sink down. They get degraded. That is what Krishna is saying here. Okay. So this is the third section. That is the last section for today. So this section talks about how we can give up the demonic tendencies. That is by following scriptures. Okay, how to do that, we'll see. We have again very important verse here. If anyone wants to read. Sanvi?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Trividham narakasyedam dvaram nashanamaatmanah kama krodhastatha lobha tasmadetattrayam tyajet. Translation: there are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul.
Very good. So this is again very important to us to actually contemplate and to understand, because Krishna is saying that Trividam means three and Naraka means hell. He's saying there are three gates to hell. What are the three gates? Kama, Krodha, Lobha. So what is Kama? First one, Kama. That is lust. So it is desire, intense desire to actually own something. That is Kama. Krodha means anger. And Lobha means, Krishna is saying, that is greed. So these three, that is desire, anger, and greed. These three are the gates to hell. So every man should actually give up these tendencies. If we have desire for something, so it will actually ultimately degrade. And what will happen if we degrade? We actually have the tendency to own something. If you have intense desire and you degrade, you don't follow the rules and regulations, and ultimately you'll fall down to lower species. So even anger, even Lobha, that is greed. So these three are the three gates to hell. So what we have to do is we have to contemplate and we have to try to reduce all this. Each one of us have demonic qualities like anger, desire. We also have desires, right? But in desires also there are bad desires and good desires. So we have to understand, we should be able to differentiate. By now we have come to 16th chapter. So we should be able to differentiate what is good and bad. Okay. That we have to understand. There's one more important verse. So Krishna is saying what is the result of these degradation. That is, if people don't actually accept scriptures, if they don't follow scriptures, what happens? Krishna is talking. So this is again verse from SSP if anyone wants to recite. Vanshika?
Yes,
Okay.
Mataji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Shastravidim Mustrujya Vartate Kamakarataha Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Nasukam Na Param Gatim. Translation: he who discards spiritual injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination.
Very good. So this is again the verse from SSP. So what this verse is saying, you all know. So if we disregard what the sayings are there in the scriptures, and if we act based on our own desires or based on our own sense gratification, if we behave whimsically like that, that particular person will neither be perfect in anything, will neither be happy, nor they can attain the supreme destination. That is what this particular verse is talking about. So if we follow scriptures, what will happen? That also Krishna is saying in this verse, if anyone wants to read. So this is the last verse of this chapter. Who wants to read it?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tasma Shastram pramanam te karya vyavasthito jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartumiharhasi. Translation: one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulation of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated.
Very good. So this is the very important verse. So if we follow scriptures, we should understand what is prescribed in the scriptures, what should be done and what should not be done. That is, we should be able to understand what is the rule and what are the rules and regulations, and what are prescribed in Shastras and what are not prescribed in Shastras. And if we understand that, if we follow those rules and regulations, so far we have been discussing so many life lessons. So that is all prescribed by Lord Sri Krishna himself. So if we follow that rules and regulations, then Krishna is saying that we will be elevated so that we can gradually reach him. We can gradually go back to the Godhead. Okay. So that is the end of this particular chapter. We just have a quick summary. So here what we have to understand in this particular chapter, this is a quite small chapter. So here what we can understand is, if we perform acts for self-realization, not sense gratification, self-realization, by following the scriptures, then we will escape the gates to hell. So Krishna was talking about the 3 gates to hell, right? So we will escape that 3 gates to hell. So, and then based on that, we will attain the supreme destination. That is what Krishna is saying. But people who actually reject the scriptures and they act whimsically based on their own rules and regulations, for them, the rules which are given in Shastras and all, they don't care. They make their own rules and they break all the rules. Okay. And these people, they will become miserable and ultimately they will degrade and they will end up in hellish planets. Okay. So we have a life lesson here if anyone wants to.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can you hear me?
Yes, Amma, go ahead. Yeah.
Draw your own Lakshman Rekha.
Very good. So now, so far we have been reading about Bhagavad Gita, so many life lessons we have learned, right? So Krishna gave us so much of knowledge, but then following or not is up to us. So in the next chapter, Krishna will discuss about how to actually follow them. But then we have to draw our own Lakshmana Rekha. Nobody is going to say us. Of course, our parents keep telling us, don't do that, that is bad, this is bad, and things like that. But we have to draw our own Lakshmana Rekha so that we follow the rules and regulations properly. Okay. So that is the end of this particular chapter. So we'll do a quick overview of what we have learned today. So in this particular chapter, we discussed about 3 sections. The first section is the divine and demoniac qualities, that is Daivi Prakriti and Asura Sampada. So Daivi Prakriti, we have 26 divine qualities which Krishna was talking about, and then 6 demoniac qualities. In the second section, we discussed about the activities of the demoniac people. What are the qualities, what will be the mentality, and how they actually don't follow the rules and regulations, how they go against the Shastras, that and all we discussed in this particular section. And in the final section, how we can give, because all of us have anger, we have desire. I am not sure if anyone is not angry at least at one point of time, but I'm sure definitely all of us have anger. So we should admit that we also have the demonic qualities, but not to the level where like Hiranyakashipu or Ravana or anyone else. Okay. So Krishna is saying how we can give up the demoniac qualities. That is by following Shastras, because Shastras have all the rules and regulations. Shastras tell us what are the things we have to do and what are the things we should not do. Based on that, if we follow that, we can escape the 3 gates to hell and then we can get liberated. But then again, that is our choice, whether to follow them or whether not to follow. So it is our free will. Based on our free will, we have to understand the importance of Shastras and we have to follow the rules and regulations accordingly. So that is the end of this chapter 16. Thank you very much for joining. Grandraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.